Well, we've done an interview with these two fine, upstanding members of our community about mental health. And while I've got you, I thought let's talk about the situation with us, because we can go on holiday, but only as far as Guernsey. Mm-hmm. We had the Guernsey Chief Minister here the other week on holiday and had a fascinating conversation with him at the end of this. And they're going down to the 7-day thing. In fact, the day of recording is the day they've gone down, haven't they? Does that now alter how we do things? And are you happy? I'll come to you in a second, but politically wise, and then we'll go health wise. What do you think to this 7 days?
Yeah, well, I have a weekly chat with Gavin, the Chief Minister. It was delightful to meet him and his wife. My wife and myself went out for a meal, and it's good to have a chat about what they're experiencing, what we're experiencing as families. And I regularly speak to Gavin about what Guernsey are thinking about and what the Isle of Man are thinking about. Now, they did the trial of the self-isolate for 7 days if you come back, and they're not allowing anyone into Guernsey who isn't from Guernsey unless it's the same as the Isle of Man unless they're a key worker, etc. So they're making their local people isolate for 7 days, and then they'll have a test done, and you'll get the results back on day 8. And if you're negative, they're allowing you to maybe go back to work, but you cannot go out for a restaurant for the remaining of the 14-day period. So the remaining 6 days, you will be forced to not go to the theatre. Sure. If it was on the Isle of Man, it would be the Gaiety, the Villa Marina, out for a meal, etc. Where there's build-up of people in a closed, confined space. And that's what they're doing. They
happy with it? Good idea? Or what, are you going to follow suit?
Well, we've
it's on your list, isn't it?
It's on our list, and I was very open and frank with the public in our last couple of broadcasts where we said, look, we are looking at doing this ourselves, and we're going to spend the month of August building up our resources to enable us to do all the testing, extra machinery, equipment, training.
What's your mailbox like, though? It's still going to be, don't you dare open those borders, or get the borders open. There's no one's in between on this one.
It's probably 90% don't touch the borders.
Really?
10% open them up.
And that 90% is a vocal part, isn't it?
I get just as many who are saying, no, you should be allowing a free-for-all.
Oh, okay.
Well, on that percentage of 90% don't want the borders touched. And they are the vocal ones. The vast majority of the people, I think, get it, that I'm trying to spin plates here. I'm trying to protect lives and the public safety.
You're going to go from hero to zero. You know this, don't you? As soon as there's a case or something that breaks out, and you've reduced that level, all the people that clapped you at Tynwald will be the ones really going, woo.
Well, that's life as a chief minister, isn't it?
You're juggling plates. I like that.
Yeah. The problem is you've got the economy to think of, and people say you're listening to the business community too much. But if we don't have jobs, if people aren't earning money and taxes aren't coming in to pay for our health service, to pay for the police, for social care, for road, whatever, if we haven't got the money coming in, then there is a concern that we could lose more lives as a result of the economy tanking than lives lost through COVID-19. So I've got to try and do a juggling act. We've got all our young people, a few thousand, going off to university next month.
Do you want to talk about that one? What about these pale parents? What are they going to do? There's so much build-up here about getting their
I know
kids back
we as a family we're paying for a company to take my son's gear away.
But you would have gone over, wouldn't you? Normally,
we would have gone over.
You're not going to go?
We're not going to go over. No, well, it's his fourth year, so he knows.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if it's your child's first year, it's more. But if people respect the quarantine period, we'll be fine. It's just if people don't respect it, and we're seeing a couple of people going to prison now who haven't been complying with the rules and regulations and could have spread it. So if people respect that quarantine period, we will not get COVID-19
when you're going down
to
the community. When you're going down to it?
Well, when we look at the data and the infection rate in the United Kingdom, so there's a number of things we have to look at. Our capacity. So do we have the capacity on the Isle of Man? That's the specialist machinery, trained staff.
Have you got the specialist stuff?
And that's what we're busy working on as we speak.
Oh, you haven't got it yet then?
We haven't got it now, but we hope to have it by the end of August.
What sort of things do you need?
Well, we've got one machine that does the tests for the antibodies.
Right.
The antibody test. We'll need significantly more of that. There are various tests being developed as we speak, and behind the scenes we're having negotiations with various people where you might be able to do more testing in the community.
And a faster test? A quicker response to that?
Yeah, these are all the things that we're working on behind the scenes. But if we go to the 7-day test, it won't just be the infection rate in the UK, it will be our capacity on the Isle of Man we look at all that data.
So Guernsey's got all this extra kit and they're ahead, aren't
they did the trial. We were happy to let them do the trial. It's very costly. It's not something, which is why we're probably going to charge people. If you want to go off island,
50 quid.
Yeah, that's probably a fair cost. It's not to make a profit, I hasten to add. It's just to cover the expense.
I think people are prepared on that one if they need to do it.
We've got businesses who said we'd like to have all our staff tested.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's fine. And we're looking at these sort of things too. So with me, it's all about if we've got the medical support, if the data stacks up and we're ready to go, and 7 days will enable people to go away either on business. If you and I may have all our family and loved ones on the island, but if you're the only person, if you're on your own on the island and all your family are elsewhere, you're under an awful lot of pressure.
Okay. That's a political answer. What about public health from the medical side? 7 days, good, bad?
It's 7 days for the test, and then result comes back on day 8.
You happy with that?
And then you can move to modified self-isolation. So it's not free from self-isolation, as Chief Minister explained, and that's an important distinction. In terms of, am I happy with that? The gold standard is 14 days quarantine. So anything less than that does raise a risk, but the data that we currently have suggests or indicates that we would identify 95% plus of positive cases with a test on day 7, release on day 8.
When people come back to the airport or the seaport and there's no testing with the temperature, I know that's not the only thing, but some people are kind of surprised there's not at least some effort made there. Is this a political question or was this a
No, I think it's a medical question,
right.
Because all the international bodies, WHO, European Centre for Disease Control, American CDC, are all uniform in saying temperature testing at borders is not cost effective.
Dubai has just put a fortune of stuff in there.
Yeah, but is that just a placebo?
Right.
Exactly.
If you're wanting to come over because your mum's dying and you've got a temperature the day before you come, you think, well, my mum's dying, I desperately want to come and see you. Pop some paracetamol. Whatever brings your temperature down. You have the test. You'll, the temperature test. You'll pass it, and in you come, and you might well have it, and you then go on to spread it. So there's no test out there at the moment. There are some being worked on as we speak that will say, spit into here, have a swab test or whatever, or finger prick test. Yes, you've got it or you haven't got it. You may have the test a couple of days later and it'll find out that you've got it. So if there was a test that clearly said you've either got it or you haven't, then of course we'd do it at all the borders. And then that would be, and that's what I'm looking for. And I hope, in the not too distant future, we're looking at that. But because I think the vaccine is still months and months away, probably next year sometime.
Okay. Well, finally, Guernsey Chief Minister came here. You're going to go and see him sometime, aren't you?
Yes, I'm taking the big boss away on Thursday for 3 nights.
As a sort of work and pleasure, a little bit of...
Yes, yeah, we're going to... obviously, there's always a little bit of work in these things, but yeah...
Reciprocal dinner,
Reciprocal dinner, and...
Was it interesting, though, what the Guernsey people said, how friendly they found everyone? It was like everyone was saying the same thing. That must have been joy to you to hear that.
It was, because I know when I did an interview with Guernsey radio station, they quoted their tourism person as saying no one from Guernsey would want to go to the Isle of Man, which took me back a little bit, and I pointed out about the UNESCO biosphere and all that we have to offer and how
Isn't
much...
it funny, though, there is this perception, so you can't do about it.
But it's 50-50, I'm told, people going each way, and I know that people from the Isle of Man, I've seen some lovely postings about they've had a lovely time in Guernsey, but equally the good people of Guernsey have had a lovely time here. They've enjoyed we're so much bigger, our beautiful views, our historic buildings.
We even pleased Guernsey man, who
yes.
didn't like it initially. Josh Stokes, ITV, got that gem of an interview.
Yeah.
Before we go, obviously there will be an outbreak at some point. We'll accept that's going to happen. Should we be all getting our rubber gloves and our masks ready because you're going to up the ante and we're going to go into that sort of mode? Cinemas shut again, or theatres or whatever. I don't know.
Well, we've already published. This is
I know. It's just a question of what level.
And it depends. I mean, if
how many cases?
If people respect the quarantine, it will only people going away with their children, or going away on holiday, or going to visit family, someone is going to bring it back to the island. But if they respect the quarantine rules, we will be okay. It's if they don't respect it and it gets out into the community, that's when we will have to take action.
And you don't want to be zero, you want to be hero.
Yeah. Well, you all. I mean, as a politician, as Chief Minister, you know, I just do the best of my abilities. And as Frank Sinatra would say, you're riding high in April, shot down in May. And I just keep on doing my best. And that's all I can do, Paul.